お前はもう死んでいる。何？
Slay the Spire is pretty hard, and beating a normal run is an accomplishment in and of itself. But what if I told you it can get even harder? Allow me to introduce to you the final act.
Really? This is the hardest part of Slay the Spire? It's only got 4 rooms, 2 of which you don't even have to fight anybody. You have to go through 50 floors just to beat the game normally.
Yes, really. I'll explain once we get there. In order to even reach the final act, you have to do a few things. First, you need to beat the game with each of the first 3 characters, which, like I said, isn't easy. Then you need to collect 3 keys during a run. The green key is dropped as a reward from defeating a burning elite. One of these elites will show up on each floor until you collect the green key. The blue key requires you to give up a relic from a non-boss chest. To get the red key, you need to choose the recall option at a rest site. Once you've collected all 3, then you need to beat the Act 3 boss. When you defeat them, you'll be brought to the chamber where you give the heart a couple slaps across the aorta, but instead of passing out, you open the door to the final act. So, first things first, let's collect those keys. I decide to take Niao's Lament as my starting blessing. This makes the enemies in my first 3 combats spawn with 1 HP. This makes it super easy to collect some early cards, and in this case I was even able to use it to kill an elite and get an easy relic. In that same elite fight, I also pick up Glacier, which gives me a good direction to start taking this deck in. Glacier gives 7 block, and also more importantly, 2 Frost Orbs. Frost Orbs are great because they provide 2 block each at the end of your turn, which puts less pressure on you to block enemy damage and allows you to do more damage. At least, in theory. So I'm going to be on the lookout for any more cards that get me more Frost Orbs. Since I'm still super healthy, I'm also able to take the red key from the following rest site. I get to the first chest, and decide not to take the blue key because the lantern is a pretty good relic, giving me an extra energy on my first turn of every combat. I pick up a couple of key cards in the first act, namely Go for the Eyes, Defragment, and Genetic Algorithm. Go for the Eyes is great because it gives enemies Weak, which reduces their damage by 25%, thus making it harder to get through the block your Frost Orbs give you. Genetic Algorithm is also decent if you can build it up early and serves as an emergency block card against a big attack. Defragment is almost essential for this build. Defragment gives you a focus, and each focus you gain increases the damage and block of your orbs by 1 for the rest of that combat. So, after I've upgraded and played this Defragment, my Frost Orbs go from giving 2 block each to giving 4 block each. This makes it so I'm able to get through the first boss without taking any damage. The rewards from the boss are absolutely amazing, as I'm able to pick up an Echo Form, which duplicates the first card I play each turn after I play Echo Form, and the Frozen Core, which fills an empty orb slot with a Frost Orb at the end of my turn, making it much easier to keep my orb slots filled. In Act 2, the first few floors are pretty standard and don't cause me much trouble. I end up deciding to take the blue key over the Fossilized Helix, since I should be able to block most of the damage I take anyway, so preventing the first instance of damage each combat isn't too helpful. I roll straight into the Burning Elite fight, and it nearly killed me, leaving me with 11 HP. The Wing Boots couldn't have come at a better time though, as it allows me to get to back-to-back rest sites, allowing me to get back up to full health before the boss fight. I pick up several more important cards before the Act 2 boss, like FTL, 2 upgraded Chills, and Cold Snap. The upgraded Chills are fantastic, as they always start in my hand, guaranteeing I will have at least 3 Frost Orbs at the end of my first turn. FTL and Cold Snap add some much needed damage to the deck, while also not sacrificing my ability to channel Frost Orbs. After the Act 2 boss, I decide to take Fission. In its current form, Fission is kind of bad, as it just deletes all of my orbs, which is quite risky when the orbs are a large part of my defense. However, if I upgrade it, it instead evokes all of my orbs, which would make it a great emergency card, kind of like Genetic Algorithm. So, my goal will be to upgrade it in Act 3. The boss relic I get is the Inserter, which is an absolutely massive boost to our potential. The Inserter will give us a new orb slot every 2 turns, which is fantastic because I haven't been able to take any cards that give me more orb slots yet. It also pairs really well with our Frozen Core, as we're pretty much guaranteed to have the new slot filled up every time the Inserter procs. It also just pairs really well with Frost Orbs in general, since the more slots we can fill, the more free block we'll get every turn. So, on to Act 3. My plan for Act 3 is to take as many elite fights as I can. With the Preserved Insect I picked up from a shop at the beginning of Act 2, all of these elites start with 25% of their health missing. Also, every elite in Act 3 is a singular enemy, which is great because this build struggles quite a bit with crowds of enemies, especially since I haven't seen a Blizzard card this entire run. So I barrel my way through as many elites as I can, nearly doubling the number of relics I have. Some notable ones include the Incense Burner, which makes me intangible every 6 turns, reducing all damage to 1 for that turn. The Unceasing Top, which draws a card if my hand is empty, which is great with all the 0-cost cards in my deck. And the Kunai, which gives me a Dexterity if I play 3 attacks in a turn, making my normal block cards more effective. I also pick up a Barrage, which is a huge boost to the damage in this build. Barrage, once upgraded, deals 6 damage per orb I have currently channeled. This can lead to some insane damage after a few rounds in a fight, since my orb slots will be scaling up thanks to the Inserter. All of these put together allow me to breeze through the Act 3 boss without even breaking a sweat. So after that absolute steamroll through Act 3, we make it to the final act. Now the final act has several tricks up its sleeves. For starters, this is the only act where there isn't a rest site immediately before the boss. Instead, it's at the beginning, meaning whatever health you're at once you leave this rest site is all that you have for both of the fights to come. Since I just beat a boss, I have full health here, allowing me to finally upgrade Fission. The merchant is here somehow, so you can spend any extra gold you have left. I decide to buy a Thorns potion for when I get to the heart. Then comes the elite fight. This fight puts you in between 2 enemies, the Shield of the Spire and the Spear of the Spire. The Spear mainly focuses on putting burns in your deck and dealing damage. The Shield focuses on blocking and debuffing you. One interesting part about this fight is that the enemies get a buff called Surrounded, and this gives the enemy you're not looking at 50% more damage against you. The way you turn to face each of them is by using an attack that specifically targets them. AoE attacks do not turn you around, nor do random target attacks. Also, the shield makes you lose focus, thus making your orbs weaker. This fight is honestly just as scary as the heart, since both enemies are pretty relentless with their attacks. I end up taking a hefty chunk of damage early in the fight so that I can get Echo Form up and running, but after that, I managed to get through the rest of this fight without taking much more damage. I get one last relic, and it happens to be the Shuriken, which now means that every time I play 3 attacks in a turn, not only do I get the dexterity from the kunai, but I now also get a strength. This means that not only are my defenses going to scale throughout this fight, but my damage will as well. And now it's time for the final boss, the heart.
Wait, why does it only have 750 HP? A few rooms ago, before I got in here, I pumped almost 1,000 damage into it and it didn't even flinch. But if I do 750 now, it just dies?
Yeah, I don't really get it either, but that's how it works. Anyways, this fight is by far the most challenging fight in all of Slay the Spire, and that's for a few reasons. The first is that you will rarely enter this fight on full health due to the elite fight. Secondly, and probably most annoying, is the Beat of Death buff, which deals 1 damage every single time you play a card. Yeah, you know that thing you have to do to win? The heart punishes you for doing it. Luckily, this damage can be blocked, but with the sheer volume of damage the heart does already, every single bit of block matters.
Well, what if I'm just the best Slay the Spire player ever and I can kill it in the first turn?
I'm glad you brought that up, because it's literally impossible, even with the most broken infinite combo you can come up with. That's because the heart also has a buff that limits how much damage it can take in a single turn. Now, I generally don't find this to be too much of an issue, but that might just mean I'm a scrub who does no damage. So, on my opening turn, I'm able to get my orbs up and running by playing both of my chills and a defragment. I also consume the strength and thorns potions to help my damage output. On its first turn, the heart puts one copy of every status card into my draw pile. Now, some of these aren't that bad, like Dazed and Slime, since they can get removed, but it also gives me Burn and Void, which deals damage and reduces your energy when drawn, respectively. So now, not only am I punished for playing the cards I want, but I also get punished by having a bunch of junk cards in my deck that I can't play. The heart's first attack is the main reason I brought that Thorns potion. It deals 3 damage 12 times, meaning it will proc the Thorns 12 times, causing the heart to take 36 damage. That's not too bad considering that's how much damage it's going to do to me. I do end up taking some damage due to an unlucky draw, but trading 11 damage for 36 is still pretty good. Turn 3 and I pull my genetic algorithm and go for the eyes just in time to block the heart's 60 damage attack. Turn 4 and I get my echo form at the perfect time since the heart is buffing itself. Now that I've survived long enough to get my echo form going, I have the tools in place to win this fight. Now it's all about execution. But the clock is also ticking, because the heart buffs every 3 turns now, and each buff gets much worse than the last, until it becomes quite literally impossible to keep up with its strength scaling. The beat of death is really going to start taking its toll, now dealing 2 damage every card, and its multi-attack is going to deal 24 more damage from its strength. Luckily, I'm getting some strength and dexterity scaling as well, thanks to my kunai and shuriken, but the heart is still above half health at this point. I need to pick up the pace with the damage, otherwise the heart's just going to slowly bleed me dry. Wait, how much damage did that just do? 133. That's when I realized what the win condition is. Barrage. But I only have one in the deck, so I have to hope and pray that it comes back around in the next few turns. I decide to play aggressively to try and whittle the heart's health down enough so that Barrage will do enough damage to win. This puts me in a dangerous spot with only 14 HP left. But I know next turn it's going to buff, so I have an opportunity to deal more damage if I need to next turn. But it doesn't matter, because Barrage gets drawn alongside Beam Cell, making Barrage deal 147 damage for the killing blow. Wow. I finally did it. I finally beat Act 4. After just over 100 hours of playtime. Man, there's nothing quite so satisfying in gaming. So I guess I'll have to try to beat it with all the other characters now.